Hi, I'm delighted to be joined today by Christian Lau. He's Chief Technology Officer at the Los Angeles Football Club. So Christian, perhaps you can start off by telling us a bit about yourself, your career journey so far, and any either career standout moments or just highlights in general.
Sure thing. Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Lau, Head of Technology for LAFC, as well as Banc of California Stadium in Los Angeles. Career highlight, I would say, is joining LAFC. You know, I came from more traditional roles in publishing. I was also in business consulting for many years. And so LAFC was my first professional sports gig, and it was a lot of fun because I came on, you know, after we had broken ground on the stadium. So I was able to help build a stadium and now run it. And so that's you know, that's a dream come true.
Fantastic. So obviously in your role as Chief Technology Officer for the club, what are your objectives for like the next sort of 12 to 36 months? I know obviously everything's been a bit topsy-turvy due to COVID. But apart from that, you know, have you still got clear objectives, and sort of how has the pandemic changed everything?
Yeah, you know, we were really on a path to introduce a lot of new technology this year. Some of it actually aligns with the whole, you know, touch-free customer journey post-pandemic. And so that's actually, if there had to be a silver lining, that's it for us. But now our focus really is getting back to action at some point in the future. That's all very fluid right now, but we're hopeful that, you know, we'll be able to have events in our stadium, you know, with or without customers and audience towards the end of the year, all to be determined. And so really my role in that particular area is really identifying the technology that will be required to, you know, get people back in the building, provide them with touch-free type technology where they don't have to, you know, touch a lot of communal objects, things like that. And then, you know, obviously this is really a point in time. It's a very crucial point in time, but, you know, my main focus is a couple years, 2 to 3 years down the road on some of the technology that we plan to bring out. And so, you know, obviously we want to keep that in mind as we address, you know, the specific need around post-pandemic guest experience.
I know when we were talking earlier on last month ahead of the Banc Stadium and Arena Summit panel that I was doing, we were talking about, you know, that obviously LAFC is working with not only the league, but also with other venues in and around Los Angeles in regards to looking at a roadmap for reopening. So perhaps you could just talk us a bit through, you know, that relationship and who you're working with and how you're working on, you know, sort of reopening Banc of California Stadium.
Sure thing. You know, basically we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to solve the same issue, which is reopening. And so, you know, we teamed up with the Los Angeles Venue Task Force, which is every professional sports venue, as well as, you know, live entertainment venue in LA and Orange County. And it's really because, you know, at the end of the day, we need to collaborate. We don't all want to reinvent the wheel on everything we're doing. And so we share pretty much everything now around technology, around protocols, best practices for reopening the venue. And that's, you know, everything from the technology to sanitation and working through, you know, new types of technology in HVAC, for example, like, you know, bipolar ionization systems and those types of things. And so we're all approaching it the same way. And, you know, I think that's been really helpful. We inform each other on what's going on. And then, you know, we also participate with another group called the Trusted Venues Consortium, which is more on the national level, focused heavily on technology around, you know, health verification, as well as, you know, health monitoring, those types of things. all with the idea that we'll need all of these technologies, as we make our way back to full operations. And then, of course, we also have, stakeholders within our organization that are focused heavily at the state and local levels. We have folks that sit on task force, with the governor's office, with the city and the county of Los Angeles as well, which is really helpful because it helps inform the strategy, that the state and the local governments take around, our industry.
And then sort of, obviously, I know you've been very busy despite the lockdown. So perhaps you can tell us, about some of the concepts, innovations, things like that you've been working on.
Yeah, we've actually been very busy. Probably busier now than we were before because we've had to add on the whole, COVID-19 topic. And so literally in the last couple of weeks, we've gone to contract on 5 new partners, within the tech stack. And so we're working through some things, a couple I can't really talk about just yet. But crowd intelligence is a big deal for us. We were already working through some crowd intelligence type initiatives. Now it becomes even more important when you think about things like physical distancing. So we've partnered with a company called Armored Things here in the US that basically gives us, we'll just call it, an AI overview of our venue. And we know, who's in the building and where we might have issues with, large crowds in certain spaces and where we might have, areas where physical distancing is definitely not being achieved. And so that'll be really helpful. And we're going to tie that into a broader plan of action that we're working through now. We have a really cool partner called Patriot One that is providing us with 2 things, really. It's a next generation security system that we'll use at gates to get people into the building. Not unlike a magnetometer in the past, you went through a metal detector before. So this is the next generation of that. A lot more robust. You don't have to divest yourself of your keys and your phone and these types of things, right? So we're excited about it. But then on the flip side of that, we're also working with them, within a consortium as well of, other tech companies that are working on, next generation technology specific to security. And so we'll be testing things out in our venue over the next few years, as they make their way to market. And there's a lot of things that we just want to do, proof of concepts on, things like that. There's just a ton of things that we're working through today specific to concessions, for example. The idea that people are going to stand in line to order beer is done, right? And so, mobile ordering will be a big priority for that. The customers want to do the transaction on their own device. And so we're working to really reimagine concession stands to allow for that, as well as the traditional touch point of being able to step up and order something if you'd like to. That's going to be some level of trial and error because we have a good plan in place, but once you actually get back to it, we'll see, how things work out, especially when you think through, physical distancing requirements and things like that.
And so just taking that a step further, how do you think the guest experience is going to look post-pandemic?
We're trying to make it look as familiar as possible, right? We want people to come back into the venue. We want them to feel safe. We want them to have that same comfort level that they did before. And so, we're going to try to dial back, any and all things that make it seem like it's a police state, you know what I mean? And so do you need to wear a mask? Depends on when we get back into action, right? We don't know what we don't know on timing. But, we want to make it as simple as possible. Thinking through, just coming into the building, for example, a lot of our customers were already familiar with the idea of facial recognition ticketing. because, we had been doing that this year, a couple games. And so, we want people to use, that service as much as possible. We also use, Ticketmaster SafeTix, which is on your mobile phone, right? It's all NFC, touchless. And so that is already familiar, right? That's not new. I know a lot of venues didn't have that in the past, and that'll be something new that people have to get used to. But we want to do that. Again, mobile ordering for food and beverage as well as merchandise is going to be, a huge change in the right direction, right? So we already had mobile ordering before, but it was only at select locations. And now we want to build that out to really encompass all of our operation. So there's a convenience factor, but then again, it reduces lines and all of these things. And, part of our brand ethos at LAFC is, we'll try anything once. And we also want to eliminate friction any and everywhere that we can. And so I think some of the things that we're working on achieve both, right? So we're pretty excited about, moving forward. And we think the guest will be excited. It's just going to be little subtle things like prepackaged food, for example. Different types of food, prepackaged food. I would say faster throughput to get your food and beverages, right? Without having to wait in those huge lines. And one of the things we are trying to work through on mobile ordering is the ability to have a window to pick up, right? So there's not a ton of people standing around. So you'll order and you'll have a timeline that you would go to pick up, like a window. And then even on ticketing, for example, we're looking at, instead of having people stacked up at gates through Ticketmaster, we're looking at the ability to have a entry time that would be posted on your ticket. And so that's, it's those subtle changes that meet a need now in the post-pandemic world, but they're very practical moving forward as well.
And then sort of taking that one step further, obviously, post-pandemic, we're going to see a lot more technology-led offerings and concepts. But how do you think the entire sort of sports and entertainment sector is going to evolve and utilize technology, sort of moving forward, perhaps looking, sort of 2, 3, 4 years down the line?
I have a lot of conversations with other teams and other venues, and some of those folks, in the past, they looked at technology differently. I can tell you now, pretty much everyone's looking at technology the same, and it's really to solve for these problems that we have today. And I think operationally, when you look at some of the things around concession stands, club spaces and suites, for example, we're making modifications to those operations, because of the pandemic. But then you think about, 2 to 3 years down the road, it'll just be a common practice, right? So I think it'll just evolve into what it is now. I think people will just get used to it, and then it won't change.
Well, thank you, Christian. It sounds like you're keeping busy there in Los Angeles. We'll definitely keep checking back in with you to find out more about these latest deals that you've signed. And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.